Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. I'm Drew Dinkmeyer, joined by two of the best in the industry at breaking down news, notes, and injuries. Mike Gallagher from Established Run, Justin Fan from Underdog Fantasy. Justin, how are you doing on this fine Friday afternoon?
Good, man. Pretty busy slate, so to get in there. Good to have Mike in the mix. Showtime decision was a little iffy there, but yeah, got rolled in. So good to have the entire crew back together today.
Yeah, I cut it close, man. Gary Hartman and I, we did one of the tallest mountains in Phoenix. I woke up at 5:30 this morning, picked up him and his buddy Matt, killed this mountain. It's like 1,700-foot elevation. Enjoyed it for a little bit, smelled the roses, headed back down, dropped him off, and got back in my chair like 5 minutes ago. So I got to brag about how dope my day is today. So I got that. I got hanging out with two of the best people I know. Then spring training baseball game. Then pizza spot, and then Bulls Suns. Like, my God, like heaven.
Sounds great, man.
99 percentile, 100 percentile day. So I'm really pumped.
We need more questionable tags ruled in today. So it's good to start with Gallagher as the first one. Real strong. Let's get into these injury tags tonight. First game of the slate tonight. The big one, Dallas and Philadelphia. The battle of Nick Wright's favorite MVP candidates, Luka Doncic and Joel Embiid. Embiid is questionable tonight. Went through shoot around. What are your thoughts on his availability tonight, Justin?
Yeah, he played 34 and a half minutes on Wednesday, led the Sixers with a 35% usage rate, put up 35 and 17, didn't seem to be affected at all by that back injury. Know how he suffered that back injury on Monday after that hard foul, that hard fall, after that flagrant by JaMychal. So I would fully expect him to play in this spot. He's still gunning for that MVP. If he played on Wednesday, and he went to shoot around today, I would figure he played today. So I think we have a lot of those spots today where these questionable guys, we think they'll play. We'll get into more of those guys later, but really good spot against the Dallas Mavericks. They're 27th in rebound percentage over the last 15 games. They give up the third most paint points per 100 possessions over that span too. He should be able to easily take advantage of this matchup against Dwight Powell, Maxi Kleber, lack of true size on this Mavs team. So I like the spot a lot for Embiid and fully expect him to go.
Yeah, on the Mavs side, they will get Marquise Chris back tonight, so a little bit more size, but who knows? I feel like he'll be in the rotation and really not that much size in general. Other big names, though, on the injury front that are still questionable. Mike, LeBron James, seemingly forever questionable from here on out. He's got the questionable tag, along with Talen Horton-Tucker, who got the questionable tag. And I know when you were reacting to that injury the other night, you thought that was like the season for Talen Horton-Tucker. So I was surprised to see him not immediately ruled out. What are your thoughts on availability for the Lakers' main guys tonight as they go into Toronto?
Yeah, I didn't think it was. I just thought it was bad. Get ruled out. He's had his ankle injury forever. He's been probable with it. This is when he was listed probable. It was game time, got ruled out. It's just this thing, he can't shake it. LeBron, like, we're probably gonna see him play, but they get the Raptors. I mean, this seems terrible. Like, it's insane, and the Raptors are going to run all over them. The Lakers are allowing 76% of possessions to be in half court. That's a low number. So 1 out of 4 possessions are like running. That's a really high percentage. So, we saw them completely wreck this team over the weekend. I wrote in matchup that Scotty Barnes put a baby in them, and they're going to have to get hand-me-down close. Going to put a baby in them again. We'll see. Definitely, I think Talen Horton-Tucker is probably sitting, just given the way he can't shake this ankle thing. I think they got to kind of keep him really, really careful. If you can't warm up and go, and then you get hurt again and can't finish, it just seems like you're going to have to miss time.
Thoughts there, Justin, on LeBron and THT tonight?
Yeah, so LeBron listed questionable 11 straight games. He's played in all but one of them. So expect him to play. I think this narrative that they're going to shut him down is a little overblown. If you look at this Lakers team, they have the third toughest schedule the rest of the way. Just pull up their schedule. I'm not sure there's a lot of winnable games. There's a game or two against the Pelicans that they could win if Brandon Ingram's still out. But there's a lot of really tough game against Western Conference teams the rest of the way. So the thought that they're like safe, they're locked into the play-in tournament, I don't think that's necessarily the case. Like, you look at the Spurs, they got that big win off that Lonnie Walker, buzzer beater, and the Spurs have the tiebreaker, I believe, over the Lakers this season. They're 2-2 in their season series, but the Lakers or the Spurs have the better conference win percentage. So I don't think it's as safe as people make it, especially how the Lakers have been playing as of late. So I think we'll continue to see this like LeBron questionable, and he ends up playing situation for pretty much the rest of the season.
Oh, that's true. Really quick, if I could add. Yeah. Yeah, and he also said that he doesn't care about record. I believe him. He said no matter what, the record's not really what's going to keep him out. It's how he feels. And yeah, back to back. It doesn't make sense to sit more tomorrow, right? Like he wants to see how he feels. Maybe he feels good. Gives a little bit more juice to the Westbrook narrative against Washington in a much more winnable game as well. So he definitely feels more likely to play today than sit tomorrow.
I would actually think about it the other way. I think tomorrow's more winnable. Washington, and like you want LeBron for the winnable games to like because you don't need that many wins to hold off San Antonio. And as just alluded to, there's not that many on the schedule. So that's kind of the one thing that I'd note is, and also give another day. But we'll see. I am more skeptical of LeBron stuff just when it's back-to-back related.
Yeah.
And it is on the front end here.
I think they're 9-point dogs tonight. And then to Ding's point, I think against Washington at Washington, I think it'll be close to pick or like Lakers -1. They were 4.5-point favorites the last time they faced them, like not too long ago at home. So, if you're thinking about that, I guess it makes sense. But I think he ends up playing both. So we'll see.
All right, on to Atlanta, where there's a couple questionable tags to keep an eye on here. John Collins is still out. Right finger sprain, right foot strain. He's got kind of all the things down the right side of his body, keeping him out. Danilo Gallinari, who's been replacing him in the starting lineup, is questionable with a right biceps contusion. And then Trae Young is questionable with a left quad contusion game here against Memphis. What are your thoughts, Justin, on Gallinari and Trae Young's availability tonight?
Yeah, so we'll see on Trae. It was good that he was probable to return initially, and then he ended up returning. He had that big heating pad on his quad while he was on a stationary bike. He got treatment yesterday. He said afterwards, after last game, he was sore, that he went to the locker room to get some treatments for it to get worked out. So we'll really see. I think he'll end up playing, but I'm slightly concerned that he could be a little limited. Maybe some slight aggravation risk. He does get the Dylan Brooks treatment, so I'd be a little wary. I'd be a little bit more excited about the other side of this ball with John Morant. But if Trae ends up missing, obviously I think the biggest beneficiary is probably Bogdanovich, especially if Gallinari is iffy as well. Bogdanovich, 6.5% usage rate differential this season with Trae off the court. Kevin Huerter obviously gets a bump as well. DeLon Wright will get the start, but I don't know how much you want to go there. The minutes, the role should be solid, but the usage won't be great. He'll spend a lot of time, fixated on Ja on the other end of the court. So, I'd be more interested in like Bogdanovich or Huerter in that case.
I'm a DeLon Wright truther, so anytime I get an opportunity to play DeLon Wright, I'm interested, albeit a difficult matchup, but a revenge spot, as there are many for DeLon Wright around the league. Unfortunately, I think the guy should have had a more stable role throughout. You did mention on the other side of this, John Morant. He's also listed as questionable. Sounds like you feel pretty confident he'll be able to go tonight.
Yeah, he went through workout on Thursday. Coach Jenkins said he's on track to play. He's had 4 full days to recover since the last game he's played. Really good spot. Hawks 24th in defensive rating over the last 15 games. They can get out and get beat in transition. And this is a 237.5 total. This is the second highest on the slate. So really juicy game environment overall. I had one question though. So if Gallinari ends up missing in this one, and we saw, I think on Monday against Portland, when Gallinari and Collins were both out, they started DeLon Wright and slid Hunter down to the 4. This is a bit of a different matchup today. Yeah. It's not a smaller team, or I don't know what you call this Portland roster right now. But whatever they're doing, this is a different team in Memphis. They're playing Jaren Jackson Jr. and Steven Adams. If Gallinari, let's say Trae's in and Gallinari's out, where do you think they end up, going with the starting line? Do you think they still start DeLon Wright, or they go somewhere in a different direction?
I do. I think that then they really want to start DeLon for defense. They could just put Hunter on Jaren Jackson. Jaren Jackson's good, but they could certainly get away giving up some size with Hunter, who helps on switching too. So I think it makes. I'd be pretty surprised if it's not DeLon. Is that how you're leaning too? They did call up. I don't think. It would be pretty off the board. I don't think they would start. I think I'll be pretty confident in that. They would still start DeLon.
Yeah,
they called up Jalen Johnson, which is usually a signal that Danilo might not be available. I still think that's more of an emergency type situation. I don't think he'd be thrust right into the rotation. And then you look at the other alternatives. Basically, it's like, okay, the only other thing that would get them the size that they'd be looking for there would be starting Onyeka Okongwu next to Clint Capella, and I don't think they're ready to do that. They could. They've got Gorgie Dieng kind of as a backup center that they could roll into that mix. But that's the only other guy. I mean, Kevin Knox, Timothy Luwawu-Cabarrot, they're not getting you any more size than DeAndre Hunter is. So I think those are really the options. And I think DeLon, if Ja didn't play, I think it might be different. But I think they want DeLon's defense on Ja as much as they can. I think they view that as the more important priority.
Absolutely,
so that would be my guess as well.
I could add some stuff too. Trey lit up Dylan Brooks and Melton earlier in the season before Brooks got hurt. He put up 31 on them, 10 assists. As you mentioned, they're getting wrecked in open court. Since the break, they're the second worst defense off defensive rebounds. So when teams get the rebound and go on them, they're terrible. OKC's only worse. So they're vulnerable in the paint. They just they ask Capella to just defend the paint regardless. They're kind of playing that Wizards defense where they're just protecting the 3-point line a lot now. So it's kind of if Ja's good to go, like he could do some work here in the spot.
Yeah, sets up as a pretty good spot. We're working our way through basically an all-star team, right? We've got Joel at center, we got LeBron at power forward, we got Ja at point guard here, or Trey. We can go either one of them. So we need a shooting guard to be questionable, right? So let's talk about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Mike, your boy, the OKC Thunder expert that you are. What do you think here at Miami tonight? So, off night in South Beach for Shai. They're 15.5-point dogs. I mean, this for me feels like, Shai's just like, look, I wanted to get out at the clubs last night. I'm going to take this one off. That's kind of my thought for St. Patrick's Day. But what do you think on Shai's availability tonight for the Thunder?
Yeah, I mean, have you seen this dude's swag? Like, he is the swaggiest dresser of all time. Like, come on, you got to let those fits fly in South Beach. But, so we saw him play. I was stunned that he played in the last game after getting a Q tag, missed that same ankle for 4 weeks we saw when they tried to shut him down from the break. So I guess maybe he plays. He had a comment after the game saying he wanted to kind of manage it. Not a back-to-back, so that's something that maybe helps him out here. But, again, the spread, like all the other stuff, definitely – probably game time, but he was ruled in prior to like game time. That was like really stunning to me. So probably more in than out. And I don't know if I missed anything this morning that Justin may add.
No, I think you're on track. I think if he played on Wednesday, I feel pretty decently that he plays today. They were 12-point dogs or more. I think they closed out like 11.5 against the Spurs. But I mean, they're going to be big dogs, really, regardless of who they play. So them being like 16-point dogs here doesn't really sway me too much. But let's say if he ends up being ruled out on the off chance, it's probably a Darius Bazley, Trey Mann spot. I will say the minutes downside probably isn't as big as people think in this spot, just because they're short on bodies. No Lou Dort, Giddey, Jerome, Kenny Hustle. So those guys will still play pretty decent minutes, even if they get lit up. So some Bazley and Mann interest if SGA ends up being ruled out.
As we work through our all-injury team, we need a small forward. So we're going to look across the way in this OKC Miami team. We're going to find Jimmy Butler to fill out our starting rotation. He is questionable tonight. Huge favorites for Miami here. They've also kind of taken the more conservative approach with questionable guys most of the year, just because they're so deep and they've developed such a deep rotation of guys. This smells and feels like a rest spot to me. What do you think here, Justin?
I would agree. I think it makes a difference. And Jimmy's a guy who's been dealing with nagging injuries throughout the season. So just if you're being sharp and being proactive and trying to keep him healthy for the playoffs, this is pretty obvious spot to hold him out. And you have the depth. Like, you can slide in Max Strus, you can slide in Gabe Vincent to some of those minutes. So this feels like a spot where they probably should hold Jimmy out.
They also have Caleb Martin and PJ Tucker is questionable on the injury report. They did get Markieff Morris back last week. So basically, like, they have with Oladipo back, they just have so many bodies that they're trying to work back in and get minutes anyway. So it might be more than just Jimmy Butler who sits here. We could see Caleb and PJ Tucker. PJ would be a prime candidate to sit as well, in my opinion. What are your thoughts here, Gallagher, in terms of how deep this could go for getting into Miami forwards tonight?
Yeah, to your point, I mean, look, they got nobody else in injury report. So you take 3 guys out of a full team, you still got a pretty damn deep rotation. So definitely with you that someone says. I'll add Jimmy Butler. It was a pretty mild tweak, and he kind of double tweaked it. He tweaked it, was limping around, and tweaked it again. Came out, didn't start the second half. Gabe Vincent did. And this right ankle's bad. He missed 3 games in November for the right ankle, 3 games in January for the right ankle, 2 different times in 2020 for the right ankle. I mean, this dude's right ankle is an issue. So I think they really got to sit him out here, get him right. There's a couple more days off here too, so I think it makes a lot of sense to sit him and you kind of cover the rest of it.
You think Strus would start there? And then what do you think on power forward if PJ Tucker was unavailable? Usually it's Caleb right behind him that kind of slides in that spot. But what if Caleb's unavailable too?
Yeah, I would think if they're both out, if Caleb's in, Caleb's starting. If Tucker and Jimmy are out, and then Gabe Vincent's starting if just Jimmy's out. And then if they're all out, probably Strus. Maybe you don't really need the size against Darius Baisley, I feel like. I don't know if they want to start Markieff Morris.
I don't think Markieff is ready to play starters.
Yeah,
I guess.
So if everybody's out, I would say it'd be Kyle Lowry, Duncan Robinson, Bam, Strus, Vincent.
Yeah.
Because Oladipo's not going to start.
Spoelstra
does not want to play more than 17 minutes.
Still are in that same boat where I don't think they're ready for starters minutes just yet. That you can keep them off the bench and manage their minutes accordingly. It's easier that way. You have Vincent and Strus who have started spot starts in this game, have played big minutes, have been in that role. So I think that makes a lot of sense. I will say one last thing on Jimmy Butler. Joe Varden a couple of days ago on Wednesday said he was being told that it was a tweak to an existing injury, which is even a bigger reason for them to exercise caution in the spot.
All right, as we continue.
And what about your boy Haywood Highsmith? He's a dark horse to start, and you always rip him.
Well, it's a big deal for me when I'm betting the Heat. When I just get Haywood Highsmith minutes for when I can get Caleb Martin and Gabe Vincent filling those minutes, I feel a lot better about my chances and that Heat second unit setting that lead or making up the margin than I do with a guy like Haywood Highsmith.
For sure.
As we continue to fill out, and now we're on to bench players for our all-star team of questionable tags here. We'll move over to New Orleans. We've got Devante Graham questionable there. Brandon Ingram is out. This could be the CJ McCollum show in a really, really big way, both from a ball handling perspective, because it's not just Devante Graham. Jose Alvarado is also questionable, the left finger laceration here. Justin, what are your reads on whether either of these point guards will be available? And if not, how much CJ McCollum are we seeing tonight?
Yeah, I don't have I would maybe slightly lean towards Devante being out. It's more of a read than anything. I don't have any kind of hard evidence to support that. But yeah, I think even with both of those guys out, and even if CJ draws the DeJounte Murray treatment, if those guys are out, his role is going to be through the roof. You look at their wing options, they're probably going to have to go to Najee Marshall, Garrett Temple, some of these guys that are not that great. And we've seen these spots before with Brandon Ingram sideline, the CJ McCollum usage and the minutes get up to obscene levels. So despite the matchup, if those guys are out, I'm very interested in CJ McCollum still.
Yeah, I'll add too.
The assist rate is really spiked when Ingram's been off the floor whenever he's been there. And I mean, if they're willing to play these guys a lot of minutes, we've seen this from New Orleans kind of all season long, their main guys can really get up there in situations. So if they are without Graham, and obviously they're already without Ingram, but if they're without Graham and Alvarado, you could see CJ play 40 minutes of point guard tonight with a 45 to 50% assist rate. We could see really, really big assist numbers from CJ McCollum tonight.
Yeah, I think the next question is if they're both out. And one more thing I'll add, Andrew Lopez is a great beat writer for them. He had a really weird tweet early in the day. He's look out for the injury report. And, most people perked up Zion, but it's Devante Graham, which is an indication that, maybe he's out. And I'll add too, it's probably Tyrone Wallace season. I don't know if they want to bring Garrett Temple back in the mix.
Yeah.
Tyrone's a baller. I had him on my 30-man team back when he was with the Clippers, and he can handle, he could drive, not really a passer, but that could be a little bit of a relief for CJ. And you're talking about a lot of you're going to be taking out Devante, you're adding a lot of off ball. So that would be Trey Murphy music. It's basically I think Tyrone will be more if it's Alvarado or both. Yeah. And then if it's no Graham, I think Trey Murphy makes a lot of sense to start. He's been playing a lot better. Spurs are really good limiting three-pointers, so I'd probably be more encouraged if it was Najee starting. But, to your point, CJ could just go crazy here. Not too worried about that matchup. And, I think CJ, he had, let's see. Yeah, they put, last game they put Devante on Graham. And that was kind of a stunner. And they put Devin Vassell on CJ in the last game. But I still think it would definitely be DeJounte, which is fine. DeJounte's hardly, he's still focused on offense. He's not a great defender. And he's still good, but he's not oh my God, it's DeJounte, I'm not touching this.
Yeah, a lot of times players who are really, really, really strong defenders who end up taking on a much bigger offensive role, their defense just takes a bit of a backseat. We've seen it with Joel Embiid at different times this season. We've seen it with Shea at different times with OKC over the last few seasons. Like, you just can't be everything to everybody at all times. So yeah, I could certainly see that.
I will give some love on the way out to Valanciunas as well. We always love the Spurs the big spots against the Spurs front court, especially after seeing what Karl-Anthony Towns did. They've been just getting killed on the glass all season, very vulnerable. So I think this could be a nice Valanciunas spot as well, especially if Devontae's out.
Yeah, 19, 14, and some 2 assists per 36 in 2 matchups they faced him. If DeJounte does slow down CJ and they really sell out on him, then definitely could toss into Valanciunas for the reasons you said. And man, Gary Hartman should be so flattered. I am missing Herb versus DeJounte. Like, my God, man. Like, if he doesn't feel good about himself after that, I was like, man. But I'm pumped. I'm really excited for that game. I'll watch it after.
Other guard injury notes tonight. Djiron Fox is also questionable on the injury report for Sacramento. Justin, what are your thoughts on Fox's availability tonight?
Yeah, it's iffy because he was clutching at that hand for a good amount of that last game. And when he did come back in, which he probably shouldn't have, he looked clearly affected by it. He wasn't 100%. So I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up being held out if he didn't show significant improvement, just given how he looked when he was back in there playing through this hand injury. This is a pretty brutal spot overall, though. Not one I'm very enthusiastic about touching. They're playing the Celtics defense, which has been pretty much like throughout the season, wire to wire, like the best defense in the league, especially in half court. So if Fox misses, I'm more interested in DiVincenzo, I think, than anybody. The comments afterwards from Gentry were that he was going to look at starting DiVincenzo over Holiday regardless, one of these games to finish the season or, at some point to end the season. So I think DiVincenzo's minutes upside is pretty big. And I'm not really that sold on Davion's, scoring upside, especially, particularly in this matchup. So if De'Aaron Fox mixes, I'd probably look at DiVincenzo first out of that guard group.
And I'll add, they closed De'Aaron Fox, Davion Mitchell, Dante DiVincenzo, Trey Lyles, Sabonis. So Harry B got benched, which is pretty incredible. But yeah, you nailed it. I mean, Davion would start. I think it'd be interesting, like just because the minutes could be really, really good.
Yeah.
But I think you kind of covered it. And man, like Trey Lyles was pretty good. Like we were both ripping him about
we thought he'd be chicken against Giannis, right? And they'd have to maybe bench him and throw in like Tremezi Metu or something, but he held his own.
Yeah, he did really well.
Matthew Preston in the chat notes that Celtics 9.5 is not enough if Fox misses. Not sure Fox is a positive contributor to the lines these days.
Oh, I'll add just to Justin's point. The rim protection is so good in Boston. That's when Fox is going ham. It's because he's killing at the basket. So really bad matchup.
And Fox gives up as many as he gets.
You're right about that.
He's been just horrific defensively. Other questionable tags to note: Jay Crowder. For you, Mike, I know when you go to these Suns games, you go to see Jay Crowder, so he's questionable tonight. How are you feeling about Jay Crowder's availability for Bulls and Suns?
Groin soreness. We saw him not play down the stretch in the blowout game. I don't think that was really an issue. I think it's more of just a maintenance thing. As someone who bet Suns -6, I want him to sit. Like, I think Torrey Craig's a better matchup for this. Like, you put him on DeMar, you put Mikal on Levine, and you're set. So it doesn't swing it, but obviously it's pretty straightforward. Like, if Crowder sits, like
Jay went through shoot around. It came out like 10 minutes ago while we were on the show.
Okay.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty. Okay, there we go. Yeah, it's pretty minor. There we go. Kellen Olsen said he's gonna have a conversation with the trainer, so he'll be game time. Yeah. I don't care. It's pretty like if Torrey Craig's cheap, play him. Obviously, this is a fluke. I mean, this is one of the most absurd lines of the season. 8 of 8 from 8 from the field, 21 and 14.
Houston too, like
Houston, man. Yeah, like, they are
stone worse defense.
Except against Campaign. They can take Campaign and keep him and hold a good man down and hold our props record down.
Literally every starter went off except
everyone, dude.
I literally can't with Campaign anymore.
We're done. He's dead. He's been canceled.
Speaking of Houston on the questionable side, Eric Gordon is questionable with illness. That game in Indiana and Houston has a couple role players with questionable tags. Duarte in Gordon the most meaningful. What are your thoughts on availability for those two guys tonight, Justin?
Yeah, so Gordon, I think, is pretty iffy. I wouldn't be surprised if he missed. We'll probably see Garrison Matthews get the start again, but Garrison Matthews, like 19 total FanDuel points in his 2 starts, so 0 interest there. I think that Schroeder ran 28 minutes off the bench on Wednesday, while Matthews was at 14 minutes. So this is a really good game environment, though. You want exposure to this game for sure. 243.5 total, which is the highest on the slate. So on the Houston side, I'd be looking at KPJ. I think that's my favorite guy on that side. On the Pacers side, Jalen Smith. Without Isaiah Jackson and with Goga questionable, he's a standout for me. And then you look at Brogdon as well. But yeah, this is a really juicy spot. With teams that are dealing with some injuries and maybe some depth issues with guys stepping into expanded roles. So it should definitely maybe take another couple of minutes breaking down this spot. Like outside of the guys I mentioned, KPJ, Jalen Smith, and Brogdon, who are our next kind of favorite targets in this game?
I think Wood's pretty good. I think Wood could take advantage of the Jalen Smith matchup. Their interior defense has been terrible. We've seen even Sticks get wrecked. Isaiah Jackson obviously got wrecked. Goga gets wrecked. All these guys get wrecked inside. So if you could score inside on these teams, like it's print fest. So yeah, I mean the stars are great. I prefer Brogdon over Halliburton because I prefer guys who drive against Houston, and that's what Brogdon does a lot. So I like his upside a little bit more. I think KPJ can go like really ham here. He's been really consistent with the ball handling. He kind of ceded a little bit of it to Green because Green was kind of cooking in the last game, even against Mikal. Shout out to Jalen Green. But yeah, I think I would stick with the stars. Probably should be a tight game, so you're not really looking to Josh Christopher. KPJ's minutes have been really good. His ball handling numbers have been really good. His turnovers haven't been outrageous. He's been playing a lot better. But yeah, I think Jalen Smith could go completely ham, especially if Goga doesn't play.
They're
mega monster game.
Jalen Smith, Terry Taylor, and Brissett in that front court. They'd be super thin without Goga.
Yeah. So I mean, Christian Wood should destroy that. He should. We'll see if he does. But I think it's a really big Christian Wood spot tonight.
The only concern is his minutes, right? Like how much get to like lower 30s, or if he's going like 27, 21 with Şengün or something. We'll see.
Yeah,
Goon's been cutting down a little bit because I mean, honestly, Şengün's been outplaying him in my opinion. So there's definitely massive downside, but I think this is definitely a huge get right spot for Wood.
Yeah, early ownership projections do not have the field on Christian Wood very much at all either. So Goga Bitadze is also questionable there, and obviously if he is able to play because Isaiah Jackson is out, he's only 3,400 on DraftKings, so it would kind of be a big deal here. What are your thoughts on Goga Bitadze's availability tonight, Justin?
I thought are you looking at tickets?
I hit the wrong button. I want to go this game now. No, that was my bad.
I mean Goga's interesting for sure. Like even if Goga plays, they're still thin in that front court without Isaiah Jackson. So there's going to be still plenty of minutes to go around between Jalen Smith, Brissett, and Goga. So he'd definitely be interesting in this spot. Anybody against the Rockets, really, I'm interested in. We saw that Suns box score. There's plenty of room at the table for everybody to eat. So it's a great spot.
All right. Mike, you've mentioned spending the whole day with Gary Hartman, so we're going to end on a questionable tag that is near and dear to Gary Hartman's heart. Quinton Grimes, questionable for the Knicks tonight. Okay. Do we see Quinton Grimes make his return? And if so, how does it impact the Knicks rotation that obviously with Tom Thibodeau has always been very tight, but it was so tight that RJ Barrett was able to get to 40 minutes in a game that they won by 40 points against Portland the other night. Do we see Quinton Grimes return tonight, Justin?
They were optimistic. I mean, they've been targeting it for a while. He's been practicing, so I think there's a pretty good chance he's back in the mix. Probably monitored for sure initially off the bat. The dislocated knee was definitely scary. There was some concern that he might be out for the rest of the season. So good to see him back. I'm sure he'll be eased back in. We do need to cover the Jazz situation though before we
for sure.
That's obviously a massive one.
Yeah. I did overlook the Jazz situation, mostly because I was so tilted there weren't Jazz props up earlier today when I was trying to find options. But let's go through the Jazz. No Donovan Mitchell, no Trent Forrest, no Bojan Bogdanovic, no Azubuike, no Daniel House Jr. Who is left and who is playing tonight for Utah? Who do we expect to start in the absence of Donovan Mitchell and Daniel House and Bojan Bogdanovic when they're very thin on the wings?
I think it's got to be Clarkson. We saw Clarkson check in and run like crazy. Shout out to us for double dipping his overs. But what he played 19 first half minutes, if I remember, in this game. Chucking, they need the offense.
Did benefit a bit from Donovan Mitchell picking up 3,000 that first half.
Yes.
To let him run another like 3-4 minutes at the end of the first half. But yeah.
Dink, we knew that was coming. What are you talking about?
We did.
Yeah. But yeah, so to your point, I mean, they are freaking thin, man. Like we might see freaking Xavier Sneed, we might see a little bit more Nah. I think you just start Clarkson, right? I don't think you want to go there with Nah. I know they like him off the bench, but I just think you just do it. It's easier. I don't know if you guys would agree, and then the rest of them will be the same. Conley's minutes haven't been elevated. Yeah, Trent Forrest getting ruled out is a big deal because we haven't seen Conley get big minutes. So maybe he finally does in a matchup that's not great. The Clippers are playing pretty good defense. I think they're first in half-court defense since the break. They've been playing a lot better there. But, yeah, we've seen actually, I was surprised to find out Conley's stats like don't really jump up without Boyan and Donnie. But interestingly, Gobert's kind of do 18, 17, and 1 per 36. He has wrecked Zubats in previous games. So definitely a really, really good Gobert spot. And yeah, obviously Clarkson if he's cheap. If not starting, mildly interested, but he's just going to be grand open and grand closing, and then Clarkson will eat up all the minutes. So
I would think Jared Butler healthy? I would think he's ahead of Sneed, right? Like I would think it would be Butler and Nah ahead of Sneed.
It'd be I think it's Conley, Clarkson, Nah, and Jared Butler. Mostly. I don't think they would need to go to Sneed or anybody else. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But we know they're willing to play tight, and we know there's a ton of usage to fill in the absence of Donovan Mitchell and Boyan. Those are the two guys that create offense. So I think it's got to be Clarkson. I agree with Mike. He's the only other guy that can really create offense. Conley at this stage of his career isn't really a guy who's creating a lot of offense. He's more of a catch and shoot guy now. Can create a little bit off the pick and roll, which is what really elevates Gobert's usage. Last time I tried to bet this on Gobert without, he took 3 shots, and then Whiteside was the guy who went off on the point side. Gobert still almost got there in free throws, but yeah, I think it's clearly an interesting Jazz spot to be able to attack tonight from a DFS perspective, and one that was big last time out when we saw them without Boyan. So Clippers tonight, that game's going to be really interesting. Clippers are the ones who've played Rudy off the floor in the playoffs, but obviously with much different personnel. Than what they have now. Don't think that's going to happen tonight.
Yeah, that can't happen. Yeah.
And then Justin, I see the Underdog Fantasy NBA Twitter account has been piping hot while we've been on the air here. So Josh Richardson with a questionable tag as well tonight. What are your thoughts on how that impacts the Spurs?
Yeah, let me look at.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, because he's been playing a decent amount, starting playing like upper 20s in terms of minutes. So if Josh Richardson ends up missing, we'll probably see Lonnie enter the starting lineup, I would imagine.
I think so.
And then some more minutes for like Josh Primo, I guess. But yeah, KBD and McDermott still out. Langford's been still out. So yeah, I think we'll kind of see it more concentrated for the minutes for the starters, maybe uptick a couple for those guys, and then Lonnie gets the big bump, and then kind of the other guys fill in behind him.
Yeah, Keldon's been playing a lot lately, so he has an even higher ceiling, man. So, but him and DeJounte have great chemistry. They're really playing through each other. He's been scoring a ton off assisted buckets. I like to see that. It's better for consistency and not so much shooting. They're rolling together. So, huge for him. Huge for Vassell. He'll play a ton. And you mentioned Lonnie may not start. They might start Primo because we know he really likes Lonnie off the bench. Pop does. So, but either way, I mean, Lonnie's going to play a lot. And this Pelicans team, they get killed on 3-pointers. So it's really a good Lonnie spot.
Yeah, Keldon's hit 37 minutes, I think 3 of his last 6 games. So that's a nice ceiling spot for him.
Pretty nice. Certainly benefiting from the absence of Doug McDermott as Keldon Johnson. So, all right. 12 games, lots of big names on the injury report today. We've covered it all. Hope you guys, enjoyed and can get back to sweating your March Madness brackets if they're still alive. Mine are all dead thanks to St. Peter's last night. Really appreciate you guys out there. Shout out to them. If you want to catch more of our analysis, it'll be myself and Mark Dankenbrink, the Dink and Dank Show, tonight at 5 o'clock Eastern Time, behind the paywall over at Established Run. If you're uninterested in getting behind the paywall and only want to be in front of paywalls, you can subscribe to this YouTube channel and get notifications whenever we go live. You can also hit, smash, or press that like button to help us circulate this video and get more eyeballs on our content so we can keep providing free content for you. Hope everybody has a great weekend. Enjoy the games tonight. We will be back on Monday, 2 o'clock Eastern, with another edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. Take care, everybody.